Absolutely. The problem with bullying, and I know we're jumping a little bit out here, but the problem with bullying is most parents really kind of enjoy the fact that their child is the big man around campus and has that kind of power. That's the truth. So you have to look at yourself and go, is this really what's going on? Do I really want a bully for my child? Because I have men and women come into my clinic angry about their bully child and telling me, listen, yeah, we don't think he should do it, but at least he's standing up for himself. Well, there's a difference between standing up for yourself and bullying. So we're going to get back to suicide a little bit. Helplessness and hopelessness. If they're not changing the situation, if they feel no hope that the situation is going to change, you need to step in and you need to get them help. Medications and therapy have been shown to help with the depressive phase of being bullied. The problem is, I don't have a pill, nobody has a pill. No, there's nothing I can say to somebody that's going to make them feel better about being bullied, right? And we all know bullies. As adults, we deal with them at work.
Right.
How many times have you had to go someplace and be working, and you're thinking to yourself, why am I even working here? If you were back in high school, you'd be saying, this guy's a bully.
Yeah.
So it's a way that if your child is being bullied you have to give them the means to defeat the negative self-talk that goes on with bullying and depression.
Right.
Medications can be very effective. Do you want to talk about medications now that we can use, or do you want to ask?
Why don't we just keep it more, because then we get more clinical. So let's just think, how about let's go into, instead of going into the medications, why don't we go, let's recognize signs and symptoms, because I would go more educational that way, recognizing signs and symptoms.
For depression.
That's right, which will lead to suicide. I think that's more important than medications.
Now, one of the things that's interesting is the signs and symptoms of depression are almost exactly the signs and symptoms of being bullied. The thing you need to look for, particularly in teenagers, is a change in their behavior. If they're normally a happy-go-lucky kid and suddenly they're angry and they're using a lot of angry words or they're crying a lot, you need to pay attention to that. Hey, what's going on? Children, for the most part, won't tell you what's going on, because the truth is, if a bully finds out that you're basically snitching on him, right, the punishment's even worse when he gets to school. So you have to handle this carefully, right? I mean, they always talk about in prison there's no snitches. Well, it's the same kind of thing here. You're sending your kid essentially to a prison there at the school. Even though it's for a different purpose, they can't leave. And you can't take them out unless there's a penalty, right? So you have to identify that first thing. You have to. The second thing you want to look for is much more isolation. If they generally go out for sports or something else like this, and suddenly they're saying, well, I really don't like baseball, I don't like football, I don't want to go out for soccer, then you need to start paying attention to that. The third thing is drug use and alcohol. I know alcohol is readily available in most homes. My recommendation is once your kid hits about 12 years of age, all alcohol needs to be out of the home until they're out of the home, because it's too easy for these kids to sneak some drinks of stuff. My mom and dad had a very well-stocked wine and alcohol cabinet downstairs. And I remember, I turned 12, I'd have some of my friends over, we'd sneak downstairs, grab a bottle and have at it,
Right.
So, and I don't know any teenager that doesn't do that. Yeah. So you have to get that stuff out of the house. A very high frequency of suicides have alcohol or some kind of drug on the postmortem. All right, and postmortem means the autopsy, when they're taking a look at why this kid killed themselves. Also, for teenagers, suicide can also come in groups. One person will commit suicide, they'll get all the attention, right? Oh, look at this poor it's too bad that this poor Bobby, he died, it took his life, it had to be terrible. They get all the attention. The other kids around who are depressed and not getting treatment go, at least I'm going to go out with some memories. People are going to say something nice to me.
Right.
And that's generally what happens.
Clusters of...
Southeast Polk, which is in my area, they started out last year, and they've just had a rash of suicides. Right. They're basically once every 2 weeks is what it's going to.
Right.
And so it's made national news and everything else. Well, the number one thing is you need to get these kids treatment. The third thing you want to look for as far as, different signs and symptoms of depression and bullying is if they seem to be suddenly obsessed over their phone, if they're always texting and they won't put it down, like if they're in the middle of a movie and they're texting, or if they're in the middle of dinner and they're always texting. That obsessive kind of component is them trying to resolve the issue. So you want to look at that obsessiveness and how much they're looking at. Now that's going to be different than what we're used to. We use ours for actual communication.
Right.
Now keep in mind that electronics for these kids is their social network. This is how they feel good and communicate. When that starts to happen, they'll really hyper focus on that. You and I, we get to feeling bad or something happens, we'll call each other. Hey, this is what's going on. What do you think?
Vent a little bit.
Yeah, we'll vent a little bit.
Bounce some ideas over each other.
Yeah, well, that's what's going on there, is they're venting. That's a good way to put it. So you have to look for that kind of symptom. Helpless, hopeless, and worthless feelings. If you're talking to your child and they're expressing this. Suicidal thoughts. If your child ever expresses any kind of suicidal thoughts, I wish I'd be better off dead. Right. Last night I thought I should just take a bunch of pills. They ever say anything like that to you, or their friends come to you and say anything like that to you, you need to get those kids immediately to the doctor.
Yeah, that's a medical emergency.
It's a medical emergency. The period of time between when a teenager decides to kill themselves and the act usually is less than 5 minutes. It's very impulsive. You have to remember the teenage years are characterized by impulsivity and poor choice control. So they will make a very terrible choice very quickly. So if you ever hear that, you get your kid, if you can't get them into a psychiatrist, take them to the emergency room. Most psychiatrists will have emergency slots, and that is an emergency, particularly with children. As I said before, this is also not an age-related thing. People that are divorced or widowed or who are over 65 that suffer suicidal thoughts, they will be much more likely to take their lives as well. If your child has low energy levels, if they're high, like you, if I were to come and you're a high energy guy,
right?
If I were to come to New York and you said, nah, I don't want to go do anything, I would say, Tom, what's wrong with you?
Right. Because it's the exact opposite of who I am.
Absolutely. So low energy, low enjoyment of things. Oh, I used to like movies. Now I don't want to go.
Right. I'm not working out anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of my life. And
that's right. So those are the things that you have to keep focused on. These are all changes that can occur with depression. Of course, technically to have it, you have to have a low mood. The problem is teenagers most of the time won't report a low mood. They won't say, no, I feel sad or I feel depressed. They'll go, yeah, I'm just mad. I'm angry about this stuff.
Right.
Because their coping skills are not very developed. So you have to watch what their behavior is. If they look depressed, they are depressed. And you can't use the fact that they went out with their buddies last night and seemed to be happy as saying, geez, now they're not depressed. Because teenagers will go out with their friends.
Right.
They will
they'll hide it.
Yeah, they'll hide it that way. And it's not that they're hiding it on purpose, but they're very practical. Well, I can either sit at home and be unhappy, or I can go out with my friends and get a little bit of fun.
Right.
Or
Or to go out and become destructive.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Yes, they can become very destructive.
Right.
All
right. Well, let's see. We have about 3 minutes. No, we have about 2.5, 3 minutes. Okay. So I know you got so much information, because of your background, your knowledge, and you do treat this. If you can give me, within a minute, minute and a half, just a quick summation of, go over what the parent's responsibility, you feel what the parent's responsibility is removing the electronics, signs and symptoms, what's the common denominator of the depression, which is equal or could lead to suicide. If you can just do a quick summation, because then I have to wrap up.
Well, I will tell you, first, any change in your child's normal behavior, that's the thing you need to look at. And I hear a lot of patients, adults, especially after their child's committed suicide, say, well, he's acting a little bit different. If they're acting different at all, you need to be in their business. Number 2, you get them a phone, you let them know you're going to be checking that morning, noon, and night. 3, if they're going to be on the internet with an email, you have their password information. You have one of those key loggers. I don't know if you guys talked about but the key loggers you can get, and that will tell you everything that's written.
Right.
Plus it's hidden. Plus, these kids usually can't disable it.
Right.
So,
That's a program that the parent can buy, they
You bet.
install on a computer.
and it's worth every penny.
Right.
Check their Facebook sites all the time. My son was required to make me a friend on Facebook.
So you can track them.
Oh yeah, and then he was clever. He signed me up for Facebook, and then he developed his real one. Well, I was able to hunt that down and said, well, fine, you just don't get the computer now.
Right.
Because that's the rules. Safety first. It doesn't matter what kind of status symbol you're going to get electronically. Your child safety is most important. If they're screaming and yelling, everybody else has a cell phone, great. You can use one of them in order to be able to call home and let me know where you're at. You know, because that's what we did. We go to our friend's home and call.
Right.
Yeah, I'm over here now.
Right,
That's what you need to
exactly.
do.
Right. Being involved, the parents being involved in a child's life.
Absolutely. There's, if any mention of suicide at all, even remotely, get them in to see somebody. That's, suicide is so dangerous. I can tell you that the rate of suicide is more than the rate of HIV and AIDS. Look at all the attention being paid to HIV and AIDS.
Right.
It's homicides are less in the U.S. than suicides.
Right.
Look at all the attention that's played to homicides, trying to get rid of that. Right. So, I mean, for me, I think we ought to have a lot more funding in suicide prevention, but we generally don't. There are medications and treatments out there for cyberbullying. If your child is being bullied and the school won't do anything, you need to remove your child from that school. Most of them don't like it. Oh, I have all my friends. Hey, if your friends aren't sticking up for you and they're letting you be bullied, they're not your friends.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Well, you're the parent and you set the rules.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I gotta take it from here.
Will do.
I'm sorry, I got to take it because we ran out of time. Well,
Well, you should have had me on longer.
there you go.
Next time, go for an hour.
That's it. All right, Doc. I want to thank you very much for being a part of the Dr. Tommy O Show. You gave some
Thank you very
awesome
much.
information. Why don't you put out there if someone wants to hear you on the radio in Des Moines? What's
The show is called Doc and Lefty. It's on DesMoinesAmplified.com. We go over, mainly it's a political show, but we go over a lot of different
Topics.
Particularly medical topics and things like that. I also have a website, BertrosianAssociates.com, that goes over all kinds of medication information, therapeutic information, and general information about mental illnesses that afflict people.
All right, so we'll post some of this information online. Well, I want to thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you.
And God bless. And I want to thank Bishop Paquette for, again, giving me the Dr. Tommy O Show and the opportunity to make a difference in the community. Remember, stay alive with Church Alive. God bless.